Good morning and welcome to the latest edition of my studio poetry diary, which, as you can see, I brought outside today, partly because it's such a beautiful day, but also because it seems appropriate to this particular poem that I'm reading today, the sonnet number 33 by Shakespeare. And Shakespeare's sonnets are very much on my mind at the moment. I've just recorded number 90 for London's Jermyn Street Theatre for their Brave New World season, when they're recording all 154 of them with a different actor each day, streaming on social media. Mine's on June the 18th, I think. They've got a lot of other wonderful people, Olivia Colman, David Suchet, all kinds of people, so do seek that out on their social media feeds. For many years now, I've been in the habit of starting my studio recording day with a poem, partly because it helps me limber up the technical and emotional tools I need for my day's work, even though what I may be reading during the studio day is very different indeed. I mean, today on my slate I've got a complicated medical narration, and then a movie trailer for Artemis Fowl that I'm working on at the moment, and a couple of automotive radio spots this afternoon. But in all of them, we need to be able to tell a story and convey emotion, and that's really what this poem helps me do. Also, the other thing we need to do is know who we are and who we're speaking to. Are we representing a viewpoint? Are we imparting information impartially? Or are we protagonists within the piece? And that's what makes Shakespeare's sonnets particularly fascinating, because although they can all be viewed as standalone poems, wonderful poems in their own right, they are a very specific sequence, these 154 poems, the first 126 of which are addressed to a beautiful young man, high-born, aristocratic, sometimes called the fair youth. And the last 28 of the poems are addressed to an older woman, the so-called dark lady of the sonnets, with both of which characters the poet seems to have some kind of relationship, romantic entanglement, infatuation perhaps, and there's even a hint of there being a triangular relationship between the three of them. So this sonnet, number 33, starts with the very specific idea that the young man is like the sun. And it's significant because it's the first of a mini-sequence of poems, 33 to 36, which are sometimes known as the estrangement sonnets, in which something has gone wrong in the relationship. There's been some act of disloyalty or unfaithfulness. And the poet explores this idea. So here, the sun shines and makes the world look beautiful, the mountains and streams and meadows, but then goes behind a cloud. And the poet has to deal with this fact and laments that the sun shone on him for all too brief a time. He was but 1 hour mine, he says. And then, in the final couplet, there's a twist. Often in a sonnet, there's something called the volta, a twist or turn, where the meaning suddenly shifts. And instead of saying, and therefore, you've betrayed me, and that's the end of it, he says, and yet, I can't help but still love him. Because sons of the world may stain when heaven's sun staineth, he says. In other words, if the heavenly sun in the sky can become stained, with implications of moral sickness, it's not surprising that mortal beauties like the young man are similarly fallible. And yet, for all this, there is a completely different interpretation available as well, if we look for it. We know that Shakespeare's son died around this time. His only son, Hamnet, died aged 11 in 1596. And of course the word sun, S-U-N, the sun in the sky in English, sounds the same as the word son, one's male offspring. And such double meanings are never accidental in Shakespeare. So it's possible to read the poem as being about his son, who shone so briefly but made the world so beautiful while he was there, before he became masked by cloud. He was but 1 hour mine. And the final line in this reading would mean something like, if heaven's sun can be stained, in other words, the son of God himself perhaps, then we must not be surprised that our own mortal sons are similarly vulnerable. It's heartbreaking. So is it a poem about a slighted lover or a bereaved father? Perhaps it's both. Full many a glorious morning have I seen, flatter the mountain tops with sovereign eye, kissing with golden face the meadows green, gilding pale streams with heavenly alchemy. Anon, permit the basest clouds to ride with ugly wrack on his celestial face, and from the forlorn world his visage hide, stealing unseen to west with this disgrace. Even so, my sun one early morn did shine, with all triumphant splendour on my brow. But out, alack, he was but 1 hour mine. The region cloud hath masked him from me now. Yet this, for him my love no whit disdaineth. Sons of the world may stain, when heaven's sun staineth.